History is so important to us as a people, as a society. Without history, we don't understand ourselves. We don't understand how we got here. We don't understand the context that we're living in. And I would say that history, studying our history, everybody else's history, starting a broader version of history, helps us to understand one another across differences too. And that enables conversations, and with that understanding eventually comes empathy. My name is Nikki Gonzalez, and I am a professor of history and vice provost for diversity and inclusion here at Regis University. So I was born and raised here in Denver. My family has very deep roots in southern Colorado and northern New Mexico. So as a grade school student, about fourth grade, I remember a set of books about indigenous leaders like Crazy Horse and Geronimo and Sitting Bull and Red Cloud. I read the whole series, and so I would say that as a fourth grader, that transported me back to the 19th century American West, and that just really triggered my imagination. And then I have had a grandfather who was very interested in history, self-taught. He read all the time, and it was literally the conversations that he had with my dad that I listened to while growing up that really intrigued me, and I was hooked. There was no way that I wasn't going to be interested in history. So my term as state historian will end on Monday, August 1st, and that's when the torch, I guess, or book, or whatever the item is, will be handed over to Dr. Jared Orsi of Colorado State University. I serve on the State Historians Council with him, so even though my term will be over, I'll still serve on the council for about another 5 years on what History Colorado has called the State Historians Council. The board of History Colorado got together and came up with an idea, and I think it was the first in the nation, to not only have a state historian, but a council of state historians who represented different geographical parts of the state. We represent different communities, we represent different academic expertise areas, and so it's a real kind of fruitful forum to exchange ideas and to support one another, and it's been a thrill to be part of that. A lot of people don't know that Colorado has had state historians since 1924. I would say as the first Latina or Latino person appointed to the role, I think my experience might have been a little bit different. And so one of the great joys of being in this position has been answering phone calls and emails and text messages and visits from people all over the state, really, from the Latino communities who just wanted to share their story, and they felt that they could share it with me and that I provided some validation for their story. So I would say that by far has been the overwhelming biggest joy of being in this position. So I had two priorities coming into my role as state historian. One has been to promote diverse stories throughout the state, and the other was to really promote involving youth in history, because I believe that when young people know their history, it empowers them, it gives them an identity. And adolescence is this time when young people are trying to figure out an identity, and knowing your history, I think, grounds them in ways that are really helpful for them to kind of navigate that period of their lives and really the rest of their lives. There's a real push today, particularly after the murder of George Floyd, when we have entered this period of racial reckoning, where we are looking at the past with a more critical lens, a more inclusive lens, and in response to that progressive push forward, there's also been a backlash against that. And that's nothing new in American history. Whenever there's steps forward, there's always a push back. And that comes out of a desire to control how history is talked about, especially how it's being presented to children, in order to push a certain agenda or to squash certain difficult topics of our history so that we don't have to face them, or out of fear certain people want to stifle that more inclusive study of history, when our goal should be to come up with a more inclusive, more accurate, more true sense of our history, because then we can begin to face those uncomfortable facts and begin to understand each other. And out of that understanding, as I've said, comes an empathy for one another. Residents of Colorado should take away that Colorado history is diverse. There is no single narrative, there's no single story that defines Colorado history. Rather, it is a mix of of all stories and an interaction of those stories. And when I teach it, I teach my students history in general is like a puzzle, and there are different pieces to that puzzle, and it doesn't give us a full picture of that puzzle until we have all the pieces. And so we're still in the process of collecting those different pieces, and historians are always trying to get closer to the truth of what happened in the past. And I would say, Colorado history is a process, and people should engage in it as much as they can.
Stay elevated by subscribing to the city's YouTube page and stay tuned to our social media channels for more content. Don't miss our new episodes of Elevating Denver, premiering each month. Thanks for watching, Denver.